65 million years ago, the rules of survival were written in blood. The Cretaceous period wasn't just the age of dinosaurs, it was the age of carnage. What happens when dozens of multi-ton predators, equipped with the most efficient killing apparatus nature ever evolved, descend upon a single meal? Cannibalism, chaos, pure, unfiltered brutality. The Cretaceous wasn't for the weak. A feeding frenzy, nature's most chaotic dining event. We see glimpses of it today when sharks detect blood in the water or when crocodiles gather at a river crossing. But during the Cretaceous period, between 145 and 66 million years ago, these frenzies reached a scale and savagery impossible to imagine today. But what made them so extreme? First, the sheer size of predators. When a 40-foot carnivore is hungry, it needs mountains of flesh. Second, intense competition. The most successful ecosystems were packed with specialized killers, all fighting for their share. And third, efficiency. Evolution had crafted the perfect instruments of death. And one of the ultimate symbols of prehistoric brutality was the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This monstrous predator lived during the very end of the Cretaceous period, about 68 to 66 million years ago, in what is now Western North America, standing up to 13 feet tall at the hip and measuring 40 feet from nose to tail. An adult T-Rex could weigh between 8 and 10 tons. Its most defining feature was its enormous skull, up to 5 feet long with 60 serrated teeth, each the size of a banana. These weren't just any teeth. They were reinforced with extra layers of dentin, making them incredibly resistant to the stresses of crushing bone. Its brain was large compared to other dinosaurs, with expanded olfactory bulbs, suggesting an incredible sense of smell, perfect for detecting carrion from miles away. Recent studies of T-Rex's inner ear indicate it had specialized hearing particularly attuned to low-frequency sounds, allowing it to hear the footsteps and calls of other large dinosaurs across great distances. With a bite force of around 12,000 pounds per square inch, T-Rex didn't just kill, it obliterated. To put this in perspective, that's about 3 times the bite force of a modern saltwater crocodile. A single bite could crush through the thickest dinosaur bones with ease. Evidence from fossil sites in North America tells a grim story. Bones of Triceratops and Edmontosaurus show deep gouges where multiple T-Rexes tore into the same carcass. The feeding wasn't orderly, it was pure mayhem. But perhaps most disturbing is what fossil evidence reveals about their social behavior. T-Rex didn't discriminate when hunger struck. Juvenile and subadult T-Rex bones bear the unmistakable tooth marks of their own kind. Cannibalism wasn't taboo, it was standard practice. When resources grew scarce, these apex predators would feast on the weak of their own species. Young T-Rexes weren't just competing with other predators, they were trying to avoid becoming lunch for adults of their own kind. A bone bed in Montana shows evidence of at least 3 T-Rexes feeding on another T-Rex carcass, stripping it down to the bone in a family reunion no one would want to attend. Now let's take a step back to the Middle Cretaceous, around 95 million years ago, and talk about another typical symbol of brutality. The Giganotosaurus, slightly larger than T-Rex, and possibly even more terrifying because of one crucial difference. Paleontologists suggest that they may have hunted in packs. Giganotosaurus roamed what is now Argentina during the middle of the Cretaceous period, about 98 to 97 million years ago. Its name means giant southern lizard, and it lives up to this title as one of the largest terrestrial carnivores ever discovered. A typical Giganotosaurus could reach lengths of over 45 feet and likely weighed between 8 and 14 tons, slightly longer and possibly heavier than T. rex. Its skull alone measured nearly 6 feet in length, filled with 8-inch serrated teeth designed for slicing rather than crushing. One of the most fascinating aspects of Giganotosaurus was its brain. CT scans of Giganotosaurus skulls reveal a brain with enlarged olfactory bulbs, indicating an exceptional sense of smell, and well-developed optic lobes for keen vision. However, the areas associated with complex thinking were relatively smaller than in T. rex, suggesting Giganotosaurus might have relied more on instinct than problem-solving. What made Giganotosaurus especially deadly was its ecosystem. It shared its habitat with some of the largest dinosaurs ever to walk the Earth, the Tyrannosaurus sauropods. These included Argentinosaurus, which could reach lengths of over 100 feet and weights exceeding 70 tons. Such massive prey would require specialized hunting strategies. Fossil evidence from Argentina suggests multiple Giganotosaurus individuals died near the remains of massive sauropods like Argentinosaurus. The implications are chilling. These 45-foot predators coordinated to bring down prey that weighed over 70 tons, and the scent would spread for miles, attracting more predators. Soon, what began as a calculated hunt would descend into madness. With multiple multi-ton predators tearing at flesh, the feeding site would become a bloodbath. Dominance displays, territorial defense, and feeding priority would create a chaotic spectacle where even the hunters could become the hunted if they showed weakness. But not all feeding frenzies happened on open plains. The waterways of Cretaceous North Africa, for example, witnessed some of the most savage spectacles of all, courtesy of Spinosaurus, the largest carnivorous dinosaur ever discovered, who has undergone a dramatic reimagining in recent decades as new fossils have reshaped our understanding of this unique predator. Its name means spine lizard, referring to the most distinctive feature of this dinosaur: the enormous neural spines that extended from its vertebrae, creating a sail-like structure on its back that could reach over 5 feet tall. Living approximately 99 to 93 million years ago in what is now North Africa, Spinosaurus inhabited the lush tropical river systems that once flowed through what is now the Sahara Desert. The environment was a complex network of waterways teeming with massive fish, crocodilians and turtles, a perfect hunting ground for a specialized predator. Standing over 50 feet long with that massive sail on its back, Spinosaurus was primarily aquatic, stalking the ancient river systems. Recent fossil evidence confirms it was built for water, with dense bones for ballast, paddle-like feet, and a long, flexible tail that would have propelled it through water with a powerful side-to-side motion similar to a crocodile's. Its skull was perhaps its most unusual feature, elongated and narrow like a crocodile's, with conical teeth perfectly designed for catching slippery prey. At nearly 6 feet long, the skull featured unusual sensory pits that likely helped it detect movement in water, similar to those found in modern crocodilians. Unlike the balanced body plan of T. rex or Giganotosaurus, Spinosaurus had relatively short hind legs, and its center of gravity was shifted forward, making it awkward on land, but perfectly adapted for swimming and wading. Its arms were powerfully built, ending in massive claws that could have been used to gaff large fish or slash at other predators. When prey was plentiful during seasonal fish migrations, dozens of Spinosaurus would gather at bottlenecks in the river systems. But these gatherings weren't always cooperative. When food became concentrated, Spinosaurs would attack anything, including each other. The shallow waters would turn crimson as these sail-backed monsters created aquatic killing fields, tossing 10-foot fish into the air and snapping at anything that moved. During droughts, these scenes became even more desperate. As waterways shrank, trapped prey had nowhere to escape. Spinosaurus would crowd around the last remaining pools, creating feeding frenzies that left nothing behind but bones. And not only the open plains and waterways, but also the coastal regions of what would become North America hosted a predator that made even dinosaurs flee in terror. Deinosuchus, the terrible crocodile, grew up to 33 feet long and weighed as much as a modern school bus. To put this in perspective, the largest modern crocodilian, the saltwater crocodile, rarely exceeds 20 feet and 2 tons. Deinosuchus was truly in another league of predator. Living between 82 and 73 million years ago, it inhabited the coastal regions of North America when a vast seaway split the continent in two. Its skull alone could measure over 6 feet long, with jaws that could open to a 90-degree angle. The teeth were specialized, with the front designed for gripping and the rear teeth evolving into rounded crushers capable of pulverizing turtle shells and dinosaur bones. Bite force estimates suggest it could exert over 23,000 pounds per square inch, nearly twice that of T-Rex and 6 times that of a saltwater crocodile. Like modern crocodilians, Deinosuchus was covered in thick osteoderms, bony plates embedded in the skin that formed a natural armor. These plates were pitted with small holes housing pressure receptors that could detect the slightest vibration in water, allowing it to sense prey from a distance. One of the most interesting aspects of Deinosuchus was its habitat and prey. Fossil remains are found primarily in coastal environments, brackish waters where rivers met the sea. Here, it would have encountered not only fish and turtles, but also dinosaurs coming to drink or cross. Tooth marks on fossilized dinosaur bones confirm that Deinosuchus regularly preyed on dinosaurs. Several hadrosaur fossils bear distinctive crocodilian bite marks that could only have come from Deinosuchus. Even more impressive, some of these dinosaurs survived the attacks, as the bones show signs of healing, a testament to the resilience of these animals. Unlike modern crocodilians, which are solitary ambush predators, Deinosuchus fossil sites indicate something more sinister. Multiple specimens have been found clustered around fossil remains of large dinosaurs, suggesting group feeding behavior. When large dinosaurs came to drink, the water would explode with movement as several Deinosuchus lunged simultaneously, dragging even multi-ton prey underwater to drown. What followed was a feeding scenario unique to crocodilians, the death roll feeding frenzy. Multiple Deinosuchus would latch onto different parts of the prey, each violently spinning to tear off chunks of meat. The water would churn with thrashing predators, creating a vortex of violence that reduced carcasses to scattered remains within minutes. The scene would attract more predators. Soon, dozens of massive crocodilians would crowd the area, snapping at each other, fighting over scraps, and occasionally taking down weakened competitors in the process. And of course, not even the vast Cretaceous oceans were safe from feeding frenzies. In fact, some of the most spectacular occurred beneath the waves, orchestrated by the sea's apex predator, Mosasaurus. Mosasaurs were not dinosaurs but giant marine lizards, distant relatives of modern monitor lizards and snakes that returned to the sea and evolved into some of history's most formidable ocean predators. Mosasaurus hoffmanni, the largest species, appeared during the late Cretaceous, around 82 million years ago, and survived until the extinction event 66 million years ago. These massive marine reptiles reached lengths of 50 to 60 feet, the size of a modern sperm whale, and likely weighed between 15 and 20 tons. The skull of Mosasaurus was a mechanical masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Stretching up to 6 feet long, it featured rows of conical teeth specialized for different functions: the front for gripping, the sides for slicing, and the pterygoid teeth on the palate that prevented struggling prey from escaping. Most frightening of all was its double-hinged jaw, which could open extraordinarily wide to swallow large prey whole. Fossil stomach contents tell us about their varied diet: fish, ammonites, seabirds, turtles, smaller mosasaurs, and even plesiosaurs and other large marine reptiles. They were the definition of apex predators, sitting unchallenged at the top of the marine food chain. Fossil evidence from sites around the world reveals mass feeding events. One exceptional site in Morocco preserves the remains of multiple Mosasaurus individuals surrounding the skeleton of a plesiosaur, with bite marks indicating frenzied feeding from all angles. What made these oceanic frenzies particularly nightmarish was their three-dimensional nature. Attacks came from all directions, below, above, and from all sides. There was no escape, no surface to reach for safety, just an expanding cloud of blood that could stretch for hundreds of yards, filled with the shadows of giant predators in a killing trance. But why was the Cretaceous period particularly prone to these spectacular feeding events? The answer lies in the unique ecological conditions of the time. First, resource distribution. The Cretaceous saw extreme seasonal changes and periodic droughts, concentrating both predators and prey around dwindling resources. When food becomes scarce and localized, competition intensifies. Second, predator size. Never before or since have land predators reached such massive proportions. When a single adult T-Rex needed to consume nearly a ton of meat each month to survive, feeding had to be opportunistic and aggressive. Third, the arms race between predator and prey. As herbivorous dinosaurs developed better defenses, from thickened skin to defensive weapons like horns and clubs, predators needed to evolve more efficient killing methods. One solution was pack hunting, which naturally led to group feeding scenarios. Fourth, the sheer abundance of megafauna. The Cretaceous was an age of giants, with ecosystems supporting numerous species of multi-ton animals. More large animals meant more substantial carcasses when they died, creating the perfect conditions for feeding frenzies. And finally, the environment itself played a role. The warm, humid climate of much of the Cretaceous accelerated decomposition. Predators had to eat quickly before bacteria claimed their meal, incentivizing rapid, chaotic feeding behaviors. These conditions created perfect evolutionary pressure for the development of feeding frenzies, nature's most brutal dining events, elevated to an art form during the Age of Dinosaurs. Today's predators, the wolves, sharks, and crocodiles, are mere shadows of their Cretaceous counterparts. The feeding patterns we witness now are tame echoes of what once occurred when titans clashed over carcasses. The Cretaceous feeding frenzies were the most spectacular displays of nature's fundamental truth. Life feeds on life. It was brutal, efficient, and uncompromising, the purest expression of survival in Earth's long history. In studying these ancient feeding behaviors, we glimpse not just how dinosaurs lived, but how they fought to live, one bloody meal at a time.